my bedroom in the middle of the afternoon. Hopefully the lighting is good because the lighting in my bedroom is not the best during this time of day, so hopefully we're good. For today's video, I wanted to go over all the book series that I'm currently in the middle of. And when I sat down to make this list, I was actually surprised to learn how many series I'm actually in the middle of currently reading. I thought at most I was probably going to be in the middle of 10 different series, but as it turns out, I'm actually in the middle of 34 book series. You heard that correctly, 34. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how we got to this point, but we are here and we need to do something about it because that is just way too many. Comment down below how many book series you're currently in the middle of. Make me feel better. Hopefully some of you are in the same boat as me and have like 30 or plus book series that you need to finish. I just can't understand why I'm in the middle of 34 different book series. Like, what? And we're going to talk about each book series in today's video. And listen, I'm going to have the picture of the books on screen because I did not feel like pulling out every book from my bookshelf and I have to put it back, and I don't have time for that. So I will have pictures of each book series on the screen and you guys can follow along that way. Sorry, there was just no way that I was going to take out 34 plus books and then put them back. I organized the books, or tried to organize the books by different categories. So I have a category of I will finish these, I'm not going to finish them, and maybe I'll finish them. So why don't we start off with the ones that I am for sure going to DNF. The first series that I know for sure I'm going to DNF is Neon Gods, and I believe the author is Katie Roberts. This is the Dark Olympus series, and it is actually a Greek retelling of Persephone's and Hades' love story. I did not enjoy Neon Gods, which is the first book in this series. I did not enjoy that book at all. I ended up giving it a 2-star rating. It was a lot more spice and smut than actual plotline, and I really felt like the main characters were just simply physically attracted to one another. They really didn't have any chemistry that went beyond their physical attraction, and I didn't really love the writing. I also felt like the writing was very similar to 50 Shades of Grey, and don't get me wrong, you may not agree with what I'm about to say, but I personally love the 50 Shades of Grey series. I've said it before on my channel, I do prefer Christian's POV, which is the Grey series, but I'm a sucker for 50 Shades of Grey, and I felt like Neon Gods was trying very hard to be super similar to 50 Shades of Grey, and I just wasn't vibing with the book, so I'm definitely not going to finish out this series. Did not enjoy it, and we're moving on. I actually sold that book, I believe. I don't even have it in my possession anymore. And then we have another Greek retelling, and this one is called A Touch of Darkness, and this is the Hades and Persephone saga series. This is the first book in said series. It's by Scarlett St. Clair. I ended up giving this book a 3-star, but thinking back now, I probably could have given it a 2-star. I didn't like it for the same reasons that I didn't like Neon Gods. I just felt like there was way too much smut. If you're into that, then you're probably going to love this series because it's very much all about spice. And for me, I like a romance book to be balanced. I don't like too much smut to the point where there's like no actual romance or like a love story between the two main characters. So this was definitely not a fave of mine. I thought the cover was absolutely stunning. That's the only reason I ended up picking up this book. And I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, and in this case they're absolutely right because the cover is beautiful, but I just did not enjoy the writing. The next series that I'm not going to continue is called Priest. I read the first book, Priest, and I didn't enjoy it for the same reasons. I didn't like Neon Gods and I didn't like A Touch of Darkness. I really didn't know how much spice was going to be in this book, which I should have guessed based on the synopsis, but I just really didn't like it. But again, if that is your thing and if you read books for the spiciness, then these 3 book series are perfect for you. But if you're like me and you're not really into the overdone spice, then stay away from these series. And then we have the Fall Away series by Penelope Douglas. I don't know why it's so hard for me to pronounce her name. I always get tongue-tied. But I read Bully, which is the first book in the series, and I did not enjoy it. I just couldn't see past how mean the male main character was to the female main character. Like, he was a true bully to this girl, to the point where she had to leave for a whole year to escape. And then I'm supposed to believe that after all that they are going to end up in love and in a relationship. Like, no thank you. That very toxic vibes for me. I was not buying their love story, and I do want to read more of Penelope Bees Douglas books. I just don't know where to start because I feel like she has so many, and I know that people either love or hate her books. I feel like some of her books are controversial from what I've been seeing online, so I don't really know what book to read from her. If you have a book that you love by her, let me know in the comments below and I can definitely check it out, but I'm definitely DNFing this series. Okay, Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch is a book series that I don't think I'm going to continue. I read the first book, Love and Gelato. I really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving this book a 4-star rating, but I have no interest in continuing the series. It's a YA romance, and while I enjoyed the first book, I have no desire to continue reading the rest of the books. I don't know how many books are in this series. I think there's only like 2. Oh no, I'm sorry, there's 3. And I'm just not that interested to continue the series. Like, the first book was good, but when I think back on it, there's no feelings of wanting to continue to read the other 2 books. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Love and Gelato was a good standalone YA romance. I don't really want to dive back into that world, so I'm DNFing the series. Yeah, I feel bad saying that because I really like Love and Gelato, but I just have, again, I have no interest in continuing the rest of the series. And then we have A Vine Mess by Tessa Bailey. I read the first book in this series, which was Secretly Yours, and I ended up giving this book a 2-star rating. I did not enjoy this book whatsoever. I couldn't stand the main character. I feel like Tessa Bailey made this character super dumb and super immature. Like, I remember this character was in her, the female main character was in her late 20s, early 30s, and she was acting like she was a teenager. Everything that she did was so immature that I just couldn't get into the story. And I've come to accept that the only 2 books that I enjoy by Tessa Bailey are It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker. I've read, I think, 2 or 3 other books by her, and I'm just not a fan of her writing aside from those 2 books. So I actually don't think I'm going to pick up any more Tessa Bailey books in the near future unless I see one that I really think I'm gonna like, but I just feel like her books are not for me. Another series I'm going to be DNFing, at least for now, is the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher. I read the first book, which I think is called Throttled. I wasn't a huge fan of the writing. It felt like any other romance book that I have read, and I feel like my taste in romance books has definitely shifted the last couple months. I'm not really into a lot of spice in books. I'm not really into toxic male main characters. Not that the male main character in Throttle was toxic. I don't think he was, but I'm just not into that type of writing anymore. I feel like if I would have read Throttled last year, then I probably would have really loved the series, which I'm actually in the middle of another series by her, which is the Dreamland Billionaire series. I don't really know if I'm going to finish that series either because it's not calling to me. Like, I literally have no interest. The Fine Print was good. When I think about picking up the other books in that series, I'm just like, no emotion comes out of me. Like, I'm not excited. I'm not even meh. Nothing. There's like no emotion towards both of these series. I don't know what it is about these books, but they really inspire absolutely nothing in me, which I feel like is so harsh to say, but I'm being honest. Like, they literally inspire no sort of emotion from me. So why force myself to try to read them? I don't want to read them just because they're book talk famous, you know? I don't know. Yeah. I'm sorry if those are your favorite books. I know that a lot of people love both of these series. I'm just not. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to quickly go over these next couple series because I honestly had no idea that these series actually existed. Like, I picked up the first book not knowing that it was part of a series, and I didn't like the first book in most of these, which is why I'm not going to continue reading the books. But I guess The Maid is part of a series called Molly the Maid, and if you watch my reading vlog where I read that book, then you would know that I did not enjoy that book at all. It's marketed as a thriller, but I definitely think it should be marketed as a slow mystery because that book is hella slow and it was so predictable to me. I did not enjoy that book whatsoever, and apparently it's a series. Apparently there's a second book that came out or is coming out. I have no interest in picking that up, so yeah, DNFing that one. Dating Dr. Dill, which again, I did not know that this was part of a series. Apparently it is. I think I ended up giving this book a 1-star rating. I recently sold it on my Macari. I don't even own it anymore. Dating Dr. Dill was very boring. I think I skipped skimmed most of it and I was like, why did I ever buy this book? I probably should have DNF'd it to save myself the heartache, but I didn't, and I really hated that book. I don't know what it was about that book, but I did not enjoy it. And then these next two series I actually read on Kindle Unlimited. So it happened in Nashville, which I believe is by Sarah Adams, and then A Road Trip Romance. I DNF'd It Happened in Nashville. I think I ended up giving it a 1 star. If I could give it 0 stars, I would. I feel like Sarah Adams' writing is just not for me. I've decided that I need to take a break from her writing as well. I really enjoyed Ren and Rome, but all of her other books have just not hit. They've been all misses for me. And then Road Trip Romance, I didn't like this book either. I didn't really like the main character at all. I felt like she was insufferable, even though I love the idea and the premise of a romance happening during a road trip. The execution was just not there for me. I feel like I'm being super harsh, but I have to be honest. I think those are all the book series that I'm going to be DNFing. Let's move on to the series that I might or might not DNF. I haven't made a final decision on these books, but we'll see how I feel as the year goes on. The first one being the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I really loved the first book, but then I started reading reviews on the second book, which I probably should have not done this, but a lot of people were bashing the second book, so I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. And I also really loved the first season of the Summer I Turned Pretty series on Amazon Prime, but for some reason I just couldn't get into season 2. Like, I tried watching the first 2 episodes, I just couldn't get into it. So I feel like that also ruined the second book for me. I feel like I should have read the second book first before starting season 2. So now I'm just like, should I even give this series a time of day? But I really enjoyed the first book, so maybe I should, which is why it's landed in the maybe category. I don't know what I'm gonna do about this series. Let me know in the comments below if you think I should finish it. And then we have Royally Rearranged by Emma St. Clair. This is a royal romance series. Love Royally Rearranged. I gave it 5 stars. I started the second book, DNF'd it, and I haven't gone back to it, haven't thought about it, which is why I don't think I'm going to finish this series since I loved the first one so much. Again, I gave Royally Rearranged 5 freaking stars. It hurts me physically to not finish the second book. I don't know if there's a third book. There might be a third book coming out, but it literally physically pains me not to finish the second book. But I'm just not vibing with the characters. It's not entertaining me as much as the first book did. Don't you hate when that happens, when you start a series, you love the first book, and then you continue to read the other books in the series and they're just straight letdowns? I hate when that happens. Like, why is the writing not consistent? I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll finish the second book, maybe I won't. We shall find out in a couple months, before the year is over at least. I'm also going to be DNFing a book series by Robert Galbraith, which is actually J.K. Rowling. This is a detective series. I don't even remember what this book is about. I read it so long ago and I have no interest in finishing out this series. I felt like the first book was super slow. I remember that. I remember the book being super slow. I think I read it during a 24-hour reading vlog and I was struggling to finish this book, so no interest in picking up the other ones. Okay, and then we have Daughter of the Pirate Queen, which is the 3rd book in the Daughter of the Pirate King series, and I really enjoyed the first 2 books in this series. I don't think the 3rd one has anything to do with the first 2 books. I know it takes place in the same world, but I don't think you have to read the first 2 books to read the 3rd one, and I have no interest in picking it up for that reason. But like I said, I also enjoyed the first 2 books immensely, so I feel like I should pick up the 3rd book. The same thing is happening to me with the Inheritance Game series. I read the first 3 books. I thought the series was done, finished. Come to find out, 4th book came out, and I don't know if I even care enough about the Inheritance Game series at this point to pick up the 4th book. You know what I mean? Like, what more can you add to the Inheritance Game series, and what more can you add to the Daughter of the Pirate King series? Or maybe that's just me. I don't really feel like revisiting either of these, but I don't want to say I'm going to DNF it because maybe one day I will pick up the books if they're on sale. Okay, and then the next series that I'm unsure about is the Twisted series by Anna Huang. I read the first 2 books. I read Twisted and Twisted Games. They were okay, but I don't really feel the need to read the 3rd book. I feel like the first 2 were very similar, like grumpy, sunshine, borderline toxic male characters. For that reason, I don't feel like picking up the 3rd book because I feel like it's going to be the same thing. A toxic male main character who's possessive, who's a grump. Then we have the female who's all sunshine. I don't know if the 3rd book is like that, but in my head, it's like that. So I don't really feel like wasting my time in reading the 3rd book. But I also invested my time already reading the first books too, so I don't really feel, I don't know what to do. This is why it's in the maybe category. Maybe one day if I'm in the mood for a spicy, possessive romance story, maybe I'll go back to the Twisted series, but for now, I think I'm good. Another series that I think is super toxic, but people here on Book Talk and BookTube love it, is the Addicted series. I read the first book and it was a struggle for me to finish it. It took me literally months. Everyone keeps telling me that the books get better, which is why I want to give the series a try. But every time I think back on how long it took me to read the first book, I'm like, am I really going to sit through a second and third book just to get to the fourth book where apparently things pick up and things are better? I don't know if I want to waste my time like that. So I'm going to get comments in this video by a lot of you guys saying the Addicted series is worth it, but is it? I feel like the two main characters are hella toxic. Another series that I'm kind of meh about is the Friend Zone series. I think that's the name of the series. I actually read the second book first by mistake, and I went back to read the reviews on the first book. That was definitely a mistake because people hated the Friend Zone. They hated the main character. I love the second book so much that I feel if I read the first book, it's going to ruin the second book for me because the first book, the Friend Zone, got so many negative reviews. I don't want to do that. I don't want to tarnish my memory of the second book, which is why I'm kind of iffy on whether or not I want to finish the series or not, you know? So now that we're talking about the book series that I'm going to be DNFing and the book series that I'm unsure whether I'm going to continue them or not, let's talk about the series that I'm 100% going to finish. And we have to start with Six of Crows. There's only 2 books in this series. I think it's a duology, and I actually started the second book already. It is a little slow, I'm not gonna lie, but I do want to finish it, especially since it's only 2 books. I really did enjoy the first book, Six of Crows, and everyone talks highly of this series, so I'm definitely going to finish that one. And then Once a Broken Heart, I'm definitely going to finish. I loved how magical it felt. I don't know if that makes any sense, but when I was reading the book, I just felt super happy, and it was just like reading a fairy tale, which I think that's the point. So I'm definitely going to finish this series. I think the third one comes out in November, so I have to hurry up and read the second book. And I'm also going to finish the Caraval series, which is by the same author. I just finished Caraval, and I love it. I'm obsessed. I don't know why it took me so long to read this book. I need to know what comes next for these characters. Like, I love them so much. Julian has my heart. And we have The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I know that I mentioned earlier that I was unsure if I'm going to finish the Inheritance Game series by her, but I recently started reading The Naturals, and you guys, I'm obsessed. If you love Criminal Minds, you need to read this series. It's like Criminal Minds but for teenagers, and I am definitely going to read the rest of the books. I just need to buy them because I currently only own The Naturals, and I'm so excited for this series. Hopefully it doesn't let me down. And of course, we have the Shatter Me series, which I'm only 1 book away from finishing it. That is a given. If you've been watching any of my videos, then you know I'm obsessed with the Shatter Me series. I'm always recommending this series. It's a perfect YA dystopian, little, I guess, kind of fantasy as well series, and I'm obsessed with the characters. Juliet, Warner, need I say more? Love them. And then we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. I forget how many books are in this series, but I know there's a lot. I do want to read the entire series. I just don't know when I'm going to actually be able to do that because there's so many books, and I think they're pretty thick. It might take me a year. I don't know. Then we have One of Us is Next. I read the first 2 books in this series last year, I believe. Really enjoyed it. I preferred the first one over the second one, but I know there's a third one out. So I do want to read it just because I thought the first 2 books in this series were good. It's a YA series, and I started watching the show on Peacock, and it wasn't bad, but I never went back. I don't even know if there's a second season to the show. I just want to finish out the series just because there's only 1 more book. That's honestly the only reason I plan on finishing it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say about these books, but I'm drawing a blank. And then we have the Detective Josie Quinn series by Lisa Reagan. I've read 14 out of the 18 books in this series. This series is the best detective murder mystery series that I've ever read. I'm obsessed with Josie Quinn. I'm obsessed with her character. I'm obsessed with the side characters as well. Her and Noah, if I remember correctly, her lover is Noah. I love them together, and I need to finish this series out. I'm kind of mad I don't own the physical books. I bought the Kindle version of each book, and I'm really upset about that because I would have loved to have all of them on my bookshelf. But if you haven't read this series, I highly recommend. So freaking good, and it doesn't get enough hype. Then we have The Way I Used to Be. I don't think this book was meant to be a series, but there's a second book coming out, which I believe is called The Way I Am Now, and it comes out in September or October. It's about a young girl who was assaulted by her brother's best friend, and the first book was just so beautifully written. I think I gave it like a 4.75. Normally I stay far away from sad books, but since this one ended so I feel like abruptly, I need to know what happens next, and I need to know how the main character is coping with what happened to her. So definitely picking this one up, and I highly recommend the first book because it was just so beautifully written, and even though it was sad, and I feel like the topics that were covered in this book are so important, so highly recommend. And then we have the Briar You series by Elle Kennedy. I read the Off-Campus series last year, loved it. Currently in the middle of the Briar You series. I read the first 2 books. I do want to read the rest of the series, but I only want to read it just so I can own all the books. I'm not like obsessed with this series. I feel like I'm getting tired of the hockey romances, but I do want to finish it. We'll see. Then we have the Knockmount series by Lucy Score, right? The third book finally came out, and this is a book that I've been waiting for since I read the first book last year or this year. I forget when I read it, but I'm super excited about this third book. Super excited about the main characters. Like I said, I've been waiting for Lucian, I believe is his name, to get his own book forever. I have a good feeling about this book, and I hope that Lucy Score doesn't let me down, because the second book in this series was a huge letdown, and I was really bored with that book. I think I ended up giving it a 2-star rating. So I am hoping that this third book is everything I want it to be. Did you guys know that The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren has gotten a second book? I had no idea this was a thing. I've heard zero talk about The Unhoneymooners getting a second book, but there's a second book, and I gave The Unhoneymooners 5 stars. So I'm definitely going to read the second book. I only found out when I sat down to make this list and I went through my Goodreads and I saw that The Unhoneymooners had a number 1 next to it. I was like, wait, what? It's part of a series? And it is. The second book came out this year, so I need to run to Barnes & Noble and grab it. I hope it's just as good as the first book. It follows Olive's twin sister, Amy, and it picks up where the first one left off, so I'm very excited about that one. Another book that I had no idea was actually part of a series is Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. Apparently Love Wager is the second book in the series. A few months ago I heard everyone talking about the Love Wager and everyone was saying great things about it. I had no idea it was actually part of the Mr. Wrong Number series. I enjoyed Mr. Wrong Number. I think I gave it a 3-star rating. I read it last year. It wasn't memorable to me. I don't even remember the main characters' names, but I've recently fallen in love with Lynn Painter's writing. I read The Do-Over by her, and there's another book that I read by her. The name escapes me. I'll have it on the screen. And I love that book as well. I'm definitely going to check out the Love Wager. And then the final book series that I'm going to continue is the Dirty Martini Running Club series. I found this series on Kindle Unlimited. I read Faking Miss Right this week. I literally finished it a few days ago, and I loved the writing. I love the characters. So I'm so excited to continue in that world, and I can't wait to download the rest of the books. All the books are available on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm definitely going to be finishing out this series. I highly recommend. I haven't really heard anyone talk about this series, but if you're interested in like fake dating and spicy books, then this is the series for you. And I feel like the spice in the first book wasn't overdone. This one was pretty realistic, so it wasn't super cringy in my opinion. I'll probably read the rest of the books in the series before September is over. I was going to say before August is over, but it's already September. That's insane. So there you have it, you guys, the 34 book series that I'm currently in the middle of. I know that Allie here on YouTube did a whole video of her reading every book series that she's in the middle of. I think I'm going to do my own version of that because I need to get through these books, and if I film myself reading them, it'll motivate me to read them because I'm doing it for content and you guys love those types of videos. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see that type of content from me, and I can do it. I already upload a book series on my channel called Getting Through My Physical TBR, and you guys really love those videos as well, so I feel like that will be another good series on my channel, just trying to get through all of these book series so I can move on with my life. But that is pretty much it for today's video. Kind of embarrassing that I'm in the middle of so many series, but that's what happens when you are a reader, I guess. My camera battery is dying, so I'm finishing this up at the right time. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.